All right, we are live.
All right, we're ready. We're going to go ahead. I'm Terry Schilling. We're going to call the meeting to order by roll call. Kate Smith.
Here.
Bill Mercado.
Present.
Marty Rowe.
Present.
Sharon Fulcrun. You're here? Terry Schilling, I'm here. Okay, first order of business will be approval of the minutes. Has everybody seen a copy of the minutes that were submitted for January 7th, 2021?
I'll make that motion.
All right. Second, to approve the minutes as submitted.
Second.
All right, any discussion about the minutes as they were submitted? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, minutes of the January 7th, 2021 are approved. Now we're going to go to the agenda. Now, I see we have a couple of individuals here, I take it, would like to speak to the commission. I mean, is that why you're here, or are you just here to listen? Okay, well, I know that's not on the order of the agenda, but since your time's valuable, you want to go ahead and, or do you want to wait till we get into a particular issue? Okay. All right, well then we are going to revisit two items that were discussed and actually changes that were approved at the last meeting, dealing with section 3.12, effective date and time of resignation of member of a board, a council, and section 4.13, date of public hearing on zoning changes. Now, Mr. Bruning has submitted some revised language dealing with those two items. Mr. Bruning, would you explain what the change is to 3.12? Does everybody have a copy of the revised 3.12?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Sharon, do you have a copy?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for the benefit of the commission, after we discussed and passed this item last week, Mr. Schilling and I continued to engage in conversations. Attorneys are prone to do this. We go back and rethink and overthink and,
Overthink sometimes, yeah.
Constantly, in the pursuit of perfection, which we can never achieve, we went back and looked at this again and decided that that language is a little bit ambiguous as far as when the resignation of a council member might be effective. We said in here originally that the resignation would be effective on the date of the next regular meeting of council following the date of the written recommendation, or the written resignation, I should say. There was some questioning after the fact about, well, does that mean that it's effective before the meeting, during the meeting, after the meeting? Can that person participate in the meeting and vote? So just for clarification purposes, I edited in there that the effective time would be upon the adjournment of the next regular meeting. So the idea would be if a councilman were to resign, they would submit a written resignation, and that resignation would be effective at the end of the next regular meeting. So they could go to the meeting, they could participate in the meeting, get a little bit of a send-off, so to speak, but vote on everything that happens in the meeting so there wouldn't be a vacancy or a quorum issue at that meeting, and then council's clock starts ticking after that to fill that resignation. So that's the high-level overview of that. So if anyone has any questions or wants to discuss it, I'm open to answering those to the extent I can.
Does anybody have any questions? It's the pinpoint when the resignation really is effective is the idea behind it. Okay, if there's no discussion, I think what we'll do is we'll move on to 4.13, and then we'll go down to the next one, and then when we get into final revised final report, we'll incorporate that in, so we do everything the final report all at once. Does anybody have any objection to doing that way?
Did you want to do it as a reconsideration at the end, or just do a revised final report?
Well, keep in mind, so everybody knows, that any change to the report we did last week, because everything was done by motion, has to be done by reconsideration of what we did. So we can reconsider right now, going to the report, and I think that was on item number
5.
5, and we could, we could have a motion to reconsider item number 5 of the final report from January 7th, 2021, to substitute the language and the what has been submitted today. But keep in mind, when you do a motion for reconsideration, they can only be done by somebody that's on the winning side of the motion. Now, in this particular case, everybody voted for it, so anybody that, a member of the commission can make that motion. So you want to wait until we get down, or you want to do it as we go with each item?
Well, another thing we could do is reconsider the entire report and just resubmit a final revised report at the end. But that's up to you.
Yeah,
I know
but
you
we have to make sure included in that revised report is the revised language as we go down. So
one thing I could do, and I was thinking, and you see I brought my laptop with me at this point. I don't know how the discussions today will go, especially around item number 4, because we haven't discussed that one yet. So I thought that I could continually revise the report as we go, take a 5 or 10 minute recess when we're done with discussion items, come back with a printed copy for everyone to review, and then vote on a final report to submit. The problem is, this is our last meeting theoretically, so we won't have minutes to approve, or we won't have a new meeting to approve minutes at the next meeting. So I would like to have something in writing that everyone can review and sign. But I'm open to, the chairman's opinion on that.
I'm kind of open as to what the committee wants to do. Anybody have any thoughts about how we should move forward? Because the first one way we could do it is we could have a motion to reconsider item number 5 of the prior approved final report. Does anybody want to make that motion?
So moved. I think for the sake of efficiency, I think that's the way to go.
All right, a second?
Second?
Okay, any discussion on the motion to reconsider? Sharon, you have any?
No, I'm fine, thanks.
Bill?
No.
Okay, then I'll entertain a vote to the motion to reconsider. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. All right, the motion to reconsider is on the floor. Any discussion about the revised language for section 3.2? If there isn't, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the revised language and substitute it into the final report from what was there. Make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
All right, a second?
Second.
Any discussion on substituting what was laid on the table today for item 5 of the final report, section 3.2? Hearing none, all in favor of doing that, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Okay, that carries, and that will now become part of the final report. Now we go to the next item, which is 4.13. Mr. Bruning, would you?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Explain what we're doing there?
Thank you. 4.13, if you recall, we made a very simple rudimentary change last week, and that was to get agreement between section 4.12 that was revised, I think, 2 charter review commissions ago, from 30 days to 60 days, in which Planning Commission was to return their final recommendations to council on all zoning and conditional use changes and things like that. 413 never got that language switched over, so it referred to 30 days when it should have been changed to 60 days. Last week we made that recommendation. After further review, again, and this is attorneys overthinking things, and I am very guilty of this. I thought we can do a little bit better than that. Right now, the language that exists states that council cannot have a public hearing on a zoning change until 60 days after the referral of the matter to Planning Commission. That means if Planning Commission returns its recommendations in a week, we've still got to wait, the rest of the 2 months to get a public hearing. When you're talking about zoning changes, sometimes that's the difference between getting an economic driver in the community and them going to, Avon or Mentor or somewhere else that has something ready to go. So with that spirit in mind, we, Mr. Schilling and I had some, further discussion and thought the way to handle this is to keep the 60-day period. Planning Commission is required to take no more than 60 days. 4.12 doesn't change. 4.13 changes to indicate that a public hearing shall be held on this matter, and such hearing shall not be held until after Planning Commission returns its written recommendations. So again, if it happens in a week, council can schedule that hearing as soon as they get that report back. That's the idea there. You can read the specific language. We have gone over it. We think it accomplishes that purpose, but if anyone has any specific questions, please feel free to raise them now. Is that sufficient, Mr. Schilling?
Right. It's to allow council to actually set the public hearing while Planning Commission, in effect, is considering the matter. But you just can't hold it till after they get a report. Any questions or thoughts about that particular change by the committee? Anybody else have any thoughts about that they want to comment on? Okay. Well then, since what we did before, and there's no comments about it, I think we now need, if we want to adopt it as part of our final report, we need to do the reconsideration thing. So, does anybody want to make a motion to reconsider item number, is it item number 6? Yeah, it's item number 6 of the report approved on January 7th to substitute what was originally approved with what was laid on the table today.
So moved.
Sharon, you're making that your move to reconsideration?
Yes.
Second? Okay.
Second.
Kate Smith, second. All in favor of the motion to reconsider, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Now we need a motion to actually amend the report to substitute the revised section 413 with what was originally adopted in the report on January 7th, 2021. I hear a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Marty? Second?
Second.
Bill, second. Any discussion on that? Is everybody clear as to what we're doing there?
Yes.
Okay. Hearing none, then we'll entertain, all in favor of the substitution of 413 laid on the table today for what we previously approved, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, nay. Okay, that motion carries. Now we go to the next item on the agenda, which is, where's my agenda? Keep rolling. Okay, now we're going to a discussion of what we haven't previously approved, and this is new, section 15.04, which deals, it's Article 15, but it's specifically section 1504. that we are dealing with regarding Parks and Recreation Board, which is the article that deals with that. Mr. Bruning, you want to, now you want to give us an idea. We have two different versions, is that right, of potential change?
We might even have three, Mr. Schilling, depending on how you look at them. So one of them, the one that we initially talked about was someone, and I think this was the anonymous Google submission, to talk about deleting Article 15 in its entirety and letting council utilize its powers to, create the Department of Parks and Recreation under the umbrella of the Department of Safety Service and the mayor, the administration. That was one. The second one was the one that I had submitted to you previously, which was sort of the counterweight argument to that, which was the one that required there to be a Park and Recreation Department, a Park and Recreation Director, and that the Park and Recreation Board would work in conjunction with council and administration such that the director of that department would be hired by the mayor with concurrence by council, sort of a, like the Senate confirmation process if you look at the federal government as an example. And any firing or, release of that director would go through the same process. Right now, again, and Mr. Schilling has pointed this out, and there may be additional conflicts in the charter with that because we have civil service and union positions in the Department of Parks and Recreation. I'm not saying we can't do it, but that would substantiate, or that would necessitate other changes potentially in the charter that we would work through, not necessarily through this body, but if this body were to pass it, council would have to marry those ideas and make sure that all of those loose ends are accounted for. And then today we did get a submission, and this was very late in the day. We had revised language to that effect coming from Mr. Schilling. I'm not sure, actually, Mr. Schilling, maybe you could clarify. Was yours just revising mine, or was that a separate submission?
Oh, it was primarily revising your language.
So we do have two language there. Right. So his doesn't go quite as far as mine went. And maybe you can speak a little bit more to yours if you'd like, but those were the two essential ideas, making this all under the administration, the executive, or making it a partnership with the administrative and the legislative branches. So that was clear as mud, but that's the best way I can really explain it.
Well, I think that's about what the case is. All right, well, I guess the next order of business is we have an explanation, we have two. And I think right now, before we go ahead, Mr. Bruning.
I guess maybe the third alternative is, you look at those two. Maybe you want one, maybe you want the other, maybe you don't want either one, and maybe you're happy with the language the way it is if you look back and revisit Article 15. So I guess maybe I misspoke earlier, Mr. Schilling. There's two alternative potential amendments, but three sort of paths that you could go.
Well,
the third path being don't change anything.
I guess the default would be if neither one of these is approved, then there is no change.
Correct. And that's what I'm saying would be the third path, right?
So does anybody have any thoughts about either one before, or does somebody want to make a motion to approve one or the other and then we discuss it? Because if we hear no, then, and there's no motion for one or the other, then everything falls by the wayside and we make no change to Article 15. I will tell you personally, I am against making any change to Article 15 and Section 15.04. That's my own personal opinion. And I think the reason for that I explained when we had the last meeting, that if we need to make that change, I don't think the change should be made through the charter. And the reason that I feel that way, and I want to get this on the record, is the city of Elyria has had a bad history of charter changes that were not in the best interest of the city, and fought a lot of battles to get some change, and that particularly deals with our income tax. The charter got changed not by council and not going through a charter review process, but by an individual group that wanted the income tax to be frozen in effect from the standpoint of the credit that was allowed, it was through ordinance, and the limit of the tax. And we have fought a lot of battles to get that limit changed. And I know we got two people sitting in the audience that know what that battle was like and what we had to go through to change. I think that if this needs to be done and addressed, it can be addressed by council ordinance and should not go through the charter. That's my particular opinion regarding this matter.
I agree with Terry in making the motion that it gets tabled. You know, let council do what they think is best for the constituencies of the city residents of Elyria. My personal opinion.
You want to make a motion to that effect, Phil?
Yes.
Any second on that motion?
I'll second.
What is the motion?
Motion is that we make no change
Make
to
no
Article
change.
15.
So, right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Any discussion on that motion?
Yes. Yeah, so this is Sharon, and back to 1504 the second paragraph, where it talks about the control and supervision of the employees. Are you saying that that would also be addressed by council?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything dealing with Parks and Rec Board, Parks and Rec's department will be dealt by council and not through charter change. That's the motion, Sharon.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion or questions? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we're going to go to the last item on the agenda. If I can find my agenda. I got too many papers over here.
Final revised report.
Okay. You ready? All right, the last item on the agenda is a revised final report. Now, so far in this meeting, we have made changes to the report in items 4 and 5 dealing with section 3.2, 1.2, and 4.13. Are there any discussion to make any further changes to the report as previously approved on January 7th?
So just, Mr. Schilling, if I may,
Yes, Mr. Bruning.
can I go through just, because we've done a lot in the last two meetings here, I would just like to refresh everybody as to what was done last week and what the changes have been today, so you have a picture of what that final report is going to look like. Is that all right?
That's fine with me. Does anybody have any objection to doing that?
Nope.
No, sir.
Karen? You okay with that?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
All right.
It's just like Sharon, sometimes I look around and I don't see, and I want to make sure I don't forget that, that you're here, so.
I appreciate that.
I can't say that I don't hold too many meetings that are virtual, so I'm not totally convinced. All right, go ahead, Mr. Bruning.
Thank you, Mr. Schilling. All right, as approved last week and trying my best to incorporate the changes that were talked about and made tonight, the final report would look like this. Item number 1, section 21.13 would be added to the charter to state that all references in the charter to the masculine shall be deemed to include the feminine. I don't think that was a controversial one. Everyone was happy with that. Item number 2 would be a change to Article 3 of the charter, and this is the one that would eliminate the 4 at-large council positions. Mr. Chairman? Looks like Mr. Mercado
I'm
had
raising my hand, Terry, is what I'm doing, so I guess I'll be honest with you, I was a little disappointed to see the newspaper on Monday and said that this was gonna get moved forward to council, because I didn't think that was the position we took last meeting. In fact, I thought there was gonna be a little more clarity on who, what, why, when, where, the purpose of that. So I was a little dumbfounded when I saw the front page of the paper saying that the position, or that question is gonna go before council, because I kind of thought it got tabled, but then I guess I was looking for a little more clarity. I'm assuming at this meeting, to be honest with you. So, in my own personal opinion, hindsight is being 2020, the more I stewed on it and thought about it, I'm thinking maybe we should make a motion to move it forward to council and let council take a look at those 4 at-large seats, rather than us as the Charter Commission Review Board.
Well, that is, I believe that is what you did last week. I mean,
We did move it forward, or we did not?
The final report of the Charter Review Commission is what is going to get presented to council, and then council will look at your report and recommendation. Anything on here, on this list that I'm reading off, just so everyone understands what the position is here. When you vote on this final report submission, you are saying to council, we, the Charter Review Commission of the City of Elyria, have reviewed all of the following items, and it is our recommendation that you consider all of these items to be placed upon the ballot for, the public to decide whether a change to the charter will occur in these areas. So everything you do is advancing it to council. The question is, what are you advancing to council? You have decided not to advance certain things like the Park and Recreation Board changes. You're saying we don't even want to have council consider a change to the charter. For these other items, you are saying, council, we want you to consider a change to the charter, and council can accept or reject anything that you say.
Correct.
But you're making a recommendation, and your recommendation speaks through this final report.
And so I guess the summation is, again, clarify for me, Eric, and I apologize, maybe I'm confused, but I didn't think we took a vote on that particular subject. It came up, Terry brought it up, but I don't think anybody touched it.
We did, you did take a vote.
Yes.
There was a motion and a second to include that, and if I recall correctly, and we have the minutes here, so, Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, the discussion went along the lines of, we are a pass-through body, and we want to pass this through to council and let them make a decision on this. So, and that is true to an extent. I'm editorializing now. I mean, that you are a pass-through body, but you do have the ability to filter these things out. So, if you're unclear on any of these, this or any of the others, now is the time before that final submission comes. And Mr. Schilling, if I'm out of order, I apologize, but I think there should be clarification among the members as to what they're doing.
Yeah, the gist of the discussion we held last week was that there were 2 submissions, one anonymous, one was a lengthy submission, discussing why and the history of the at-large positions and the concern that it actually, in its application, actually creates an unbalanced council. And so, based on those things, we decided to put it forth to council for discussion, because it was probably our most lengthy submission that we had on anything, and the fact that there were 2 of them, that we thought it appropriate to send it to council for their consideration. And we even said during that discussion, given that it's about council itself, we wouldn't expect it to necessarily be passed, but it's our duty to consider those things that come from the public.
Yeah, and my position is, and again, I apologize for not being clear on my own vote. If I cast last week, to me, it should be moved forward to council. That's my opinion, so. And we voted to move it forward to council?
Yes.
That's correct.
What was the vote, if I may ask, the number?
5-0.
5, all move?
I believe it was unanimous.
Yeah, it was unanimous.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
I don't remember, I motioned, I don't remember who
Let
said
me
it.
double check.
apologies.
Let me double check that. I believe that's the case.
Because I remember, Kate, one of the things that you read from the submission by the
Correct.
individual.
Yes.
Wasn't that what you were reading from at the
Yes,
last?
I read some
Do you
of the
remember
parts of
that
that
when she was-
submission.
I do.
And then we voted, everybody, we haven't had a nay yet, so I don't recall that.
No.
So I guess, Phil, what is your position?
Well, my position is we should move it forward to council, I feel. I think they should be the ones to discuss it amongst themselves and what's best for the constituency for the citizens of Elyria.
That's where we
That's my
are.
opinion.
Yeah,
That's where we are.
that's the result
Okay,
of the
all
motion.
right.
It will
And I
be forwarded,
apologize for my unclarity to myself.
No, that's very, very good to do that because that issue is one that, probably the only issue that anybody's really cared about, I think. But we want to make sure. That's where we are on it, yeah.
Yeah, again, now is the time. If you're unsure of what you voted on last week, this is our last shot really to come back and revisit it. So if that's your position, that's the way you voted, so.
Okay.
And I know it's a little bit hard sometimes with the Zoom. You were not here physically last week.
That was
so.
a little bit of a difficulty for me.
Yes, Mr. Lecko. You want to make a comment? Step right up. Well, let's do this, Mr. Lecko. Does anybody have, other than, we've made two changes to the report of I keep calling January, July. Maybe that's wishful thinking, fantasy more than anything else. The report of January 7th, we have, through reconsideration, made two changes. Does anybody of the committee have any other changes that they want to bring up to the report? Sharon, do you have any?
Well, and that was what I was going through before we got sidetracked, just to make sure.
I understand. Do you have any, Sharon?
No.
Phil?
No?
Marty?
No, I do not.
Kate?
No, Mr. Chair.
And I do not. All right, so you can go ahead and,
Thank you, Mr.
so right now, we're going to make a motion. And the motion is that we adopt, the motion would be to adopt the report that was adopted on January 7th with the two reconsiderations made today. That's the motion before, and does anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Oh,
Okay.
whoever.
Now we'll get into discussion. Mr. Latko?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate everybody's work on this committee and taking the time. It's a value to this community, so we really appreciate that. But Mr. Jesse and I came up here tonight because it was our understanding the last meeting there wasn't a lot of discussion about the pros and cons of the council at large positions, and we think it should come to council. So we're in agreement that you're doing the right thing. We'll have that discussion, especially in light of what the paper printed the other day. We're not sure how that got out there, and what drives me nuts is this issue always comes up about the 4 councilmen at large, and it's anonymous. I got a problem with somebody who submits something anonymously, but anyways. But no, we agree with that. I just wanted to say thank you, and we'll consider that. And we were just here just in case there was some discussion that we could add some input to it, just so you could see the other side of the argument, because it sounds like the people that submitted it was all against it, and we're not sure you heard what the pros were. So that's why we're here tonight. And Mr. Jesse is chairman of the rules, so if he's got any comments, I'll let you.
Go ahead, Mr. Jesse, if you want to make any comments.
Yes, and I want to reiterate what Mr. Latko said. Thank you for working on this for the past year, digging into some dry language in some cases and trying to figure out what needs to be worked on. Yeah, we're happy to take a look at it, and even though obviously it's kind of the elephant in the room as far as council goes, but because this came up, we obviously feel the responsibility to look at it and really debate it and not just, give it lip service. I actually had a resident in the 3rd Ward a couple years ago that brought this up to me, and I actually had some discussions about it with some of my colleagues. I always try to look at both sides and not just immediately make a decision that appears to be in the favor of the group I'm associated with. Even though I have to tell you, I disagree with going that direction, and I and Mr. Lotko and other members of council have some very solid reasoning why we would disagree with it. I would just be curious. I think it would be an important statement, if appropriate, to just find out your own personal opinion on this topic, just so that it's out there for the record. Is that possible?
My own personal opinion, I am not about to say, it's not part of my job. Yeah, I would make no comment on that.
Anybody else?
I don't
Anything
have a personal opinion. I can just reiterate some of the things that were submitted in writing is that it's in its application, it's an artificial balancing by having 4, and that history shows that the majority of those 4s typically come from just 1 or 2 wards. And so, it creates that imbalance and kind of flies in the face of what should be more impartiality is what the written documents that were submitted assert.
And I would respond to that to say that just because it's that way now, or it kind of has tended to be that way, that's certainly no indication that it would remain that way. And certainly the primary advantage to having 4 at-large council members is you have more representation. And we're feeling like there's a number of younger people who are interested in getting involved with council. And, we certainly encourage that, and we embrace new ideas and new approaches, and having 4 additional seats certainly allows for that. But we can debate this more when it comes to the Rules Committee. But thank you very much.
And thank you very much, Mr. Jesse and Mr. Lotko, for coming and expressing your thoughts, and for many years of great service to the city of Elyria. It's greatly appreciated. Other than that, all in favor of the motion to adopt the report as revised at this meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion carries. I think that's about it, right?
Just a housekeeping matter, Mr. Schilling.
Go right ahead.
So I have been keeping track of this. Obviously, we have the oral motion and, the revised report, but I do have it in print version since, again, we won't have, I don't think we're going to have another meeting to approve minutes. I can prepare this in final form for signature by everyone. I don't know that necessarily has to be tonight. Mr. Chairman, do you have?
Got my blue pen.
It'll take me a couple of minutes to reformat it since we did incorporate some changes. So I don't want to, take up too much time.
I've got time.
I
Marty?
can hang around.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know that it has to be in an open session because we've got the report and you're just signing, but that's up to you. So I don't know if you want to adjourn before or after that or take a recess.
We can recess.
Recess for about 10 minutes.
What happens when we recess? Does it just kind of sit there until we come back on?
Corey, are you on? What do you say?
Yep, what we can do is I can just stop the stream. I will keep the video. The video won't be recording, but I will keep everything up. I'll stop the stream. When you guys come back, I will start it up. It will just be a part 2.
Okay. Take a 10-minute recess, Chair?
Yeah.
Require a motion?
What's that?
Does this require a motion?
For recess?
Probably does.
Okay, I move we recess.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of a 10-minute recess while Mr. Bruning prints out the final report for us to sign, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, meeting is in recess.